Hello, everyone, and welcome to The Long and Winding Answer. This is our first episode, and I'm very glad to do that with my very good friend, Bernard Dahl. We've known each other for over 20 years now, and you'll notice in the interview that we're kind of similar, but also we're not. So, Bernard, welcome.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. I'm honored to be your first.
Thank you. Thank you. You are my first. Let's say I'm a video virgin.
There you go.
What I really like about your LinkedIn profile, and I told you this already, I'm kind of jealous. I tried to steal it by rehashing it, but I can't. Your LinkedIn profile says about yourself that you explain complex things simply. That is so you and so good. And also, you mentioned to me all the time that you're all about audience psychology and why most corporate communications are so painfully boring. So why not start with that?
First of all, I appreciate that you noticed that. It's my LinkedIn profile took a minute. I tried to get all the fat cut out. It's like not a wasted word, and I'm glad you noticed. I'm glad you noticed.
Well, this is
You all
something, and I'm sure it's going to be part of your answer, but you're a words craftsman like I am, and it's a rare gift. But also knowing that every word counts and every word that is not in the sentence also count. So let's talk about that a little bit.
I think it's a huge irony because I'll be pretty selective and deliberate when I write and I throw myself little copywriting challenges. You say I'm a wordsmith, I'm an artisan of the word. Deep down, I'm just a glorified copywriter. And you just keep asking questions to do a better job. And then people are sort of embarrassed, I think, to present you to the board as a copywriter. So they're like, oh, here's Bernard, a strategist, which sounds cool. But I'm like, deep down, I'm just trying to figure out what to write. And like, I can't, this doesn't make sense. I think my real superpower is just being brave enough to not, being aware enough to not understand and being brave enough to be like, hey, I still don't understand. And being that obnoxious, dumb guy who keeps not understanding until other people realize, hey, I also don't understand. Keep going, And
Yeah, that's a very interesting point. I had a very great boss at DAC Group, Norm Haggerty, smart person, and he once told me, because I tend to be the smart ass in the meeting, and he said, "Chris, if you're the smartest person in the room, you're in the wrong room."
ooh, I like that.
Stayed with me. 10 to 15 years later, it stayed with me.
Oh, I like that a lot. I might borrow that.
Yeah.
You did steal one of mine, by the way. You did steal one of my copywriting things. I once threw myself a bit of a challenge. I was like, use the exact same caption for like, I think it was like 1 month on everything I shared. And my thing was like this guy with the laughing face. And I would just find the most interesting things like that. And like all of my posts were just this guy. And it was a challenge of like fill in the blank with something that wasn't words. And then once I saw you do it, I was like, yeah, I would have been madder if it hadn't been so hilarious what you were sharing. But I was like, so I was like, I know, and I think I know where you got that.
Yeah, in the Renaissance era, copying was a way of saying you approve of your elders or the masters.
I'm pretty sure China feels the same way.
Yeah, I hope they do. But a lawyer friend of mine told me that this shift of putting so much importance on intellectual property comes from the lawyers and the defense of those rights. That to some extent might be too much and to some extent also needed. But yeah, copying or imitating someone, I think it's the nicest form of flattery.
I think it is. I think it is. And again, I always just hope it leads to something more personal at some point. Whether it's musically, you learn by imitation, right? You learn by copying, like, I want to be able to do that. And then eventually you just want to do your own thing. Could be in writing, could be in poetry, could be in whatever arts or whatever you consider an art, right? Even if you're civil rights movement, but at some point, or even philosophy, like stop. Now that you've mastered to the best as you could in the time you have, that thing, come up with your own.
Yeah,
right?
exactly.
Like, come up with your own. Like, it's not just, oh yeah, this 2,000-year-old, sure, but bring it today. I love what Ryan Holiday's doing, for example. At least but he's also making it his. I'm like, wow, that's so much more digest. I do not want to read Epictetus, with all due respect.
No, exactly. And I mean, copying someone, when you start anything, I've started woodworking and welding and making all sorts of things. I've been cooking since I was, I think, 10 because my mother was not a great cook. And my brothers wanted something better. And my father was working. Come from a very traditional, poor, but traditional family. So I started cooking.
I think it's working class, I believe
By the
is.
way, my mom fed us, so no negative point there. But it was okay. Let's say it was okay. And so I started cooking by learning, but I just made stuff up. And when I teach golf or chess, I always say fake it until you make it. So you can't fake it until you make it without trying to copy, or let's say a better word, emulate someone else.
It's a good choice of words.
Thank you. So we were starting to talk about why corporate comms are so boring. And I know it's a pet peeve of yours because you work with words. Your trade is to work with words. So why is that so boring? And I
You
know
know,
it's because of HR, but
no, that's not the only thing. Um, look, I would look at the words as being tools. That's like saying, I'd rather, if I was a carpenter, I'd rather be judged by the house I built than by the tools I used, if that makes sense.
yep.
And I've always said, like, all of our content teams and all, I'm like, I think we're in the reactions business, and it's up to us to make something. Like, if we're trying to get a message out there, we kind of have to earn it, right? Because you pay attention. We're asking people to pay. So, I mean, let's just give them their money's worth. Let's give them a deal at twice the price if you want to go down that road. And
Mm.
what bores me so much is that people seem to operate with this default setting that is just a concept that people, oh, it has to be serious. I'm like, you know, people in offices watch random stuff. They laugh at people getting hurt. Ron Burgundy is funny across, several things. So I'm like, why not make it fun or funny or interesting or, and the first time I came up with this idea, I was like 19. I was like, why if we hired like bikini models to bring my resume instead of me being in the lineup, just bring my resume, just bring the models. They will stop the show. Everybody will be like, what the hell? I guarantee you that I have at least 30 seconds of interest on my resume. And the chances of me being called back are pretty hot. My friend said, amazing. We made the call. Models are more expensive than their alternate, which was escorts, and we still couldn't afford to send escorts. And I was like, you know what? I don't know if this is going to be the right reaction. So I saved
Yeah.
my money and I didn't get the job. But but that was the first one. And the thing is, why are they so boring? Is I think because just people operate. Well, first of all, a lot of people shouldn't be put in the position where they have to communicate important things for other people. And I think it's unfair to ask, for example, HR, hey, can you communicate this? I'm like, no, awkward nerd boss. It's your company. It's your bad news. You step up, you do it, or
Yeah.
work with somebody who can help you
Yes.
do it. But they're sort of like shoveling it to their mommy, which is the role that's been given to HR in the tech
Oh,
world.
yeah.
And it's
It's
like,
wrong in the family model, so it's very wrong in the business model.
I think so. And I'm saying this with so much respect, but I'm like, yeah, kind of have to own it. If you're going to lay people off, do it yourself. It's your company. Yeah, I don't like the feeling. Yeah, nobody does. Imagine the person who's, just laid off for Christmas. So, but there's a better way than just that. You don't delegate those things. And I think it's unfair to put people in a position where they have to do it. So why are they so boring? Because they're done by people who should be doing something else.
And probably they have to play it safe because of that role that is incumbent to them now.
No one has to play it safe. We all choose to play it safe.
Oh,
or
yeah,
to
they
risk
choose. They
it.
do choose to play it safe. Yeah, they don't have, but they do choose to play it safe because it feels safer to them.
We did we in a recent experience in the past few years, that exact thing happened. They said, "Hey, this specific, segment, speech, training, whatever, was super popular. It was done informally. Can we do a formal version of it?" I'm like, "Sure." I was too embarrassed to say I hadn't paid attention to it because I kind of knew the key takeaways because I wrote the key takeaways. I was like, yeah, yeah, just say those things, just cover those. And they said, oh, let's record that with a CEO who's a charismatic, fun loving, great human being. And I'm like, okay, now we have to get that to come across too. So we found metaphors, we found this, and then I got silly in the editing because I could, right? All I got, I'm respecting the brief, which was very much just make this thing within this many minutes. I'm like, wonderful. And they said, make it. They were like, I'm like, do you want it captivating? They're like, yes. I'm like, how are we going to measure how many people open it or how many people finish it? They're like, yes. I'm like, sure. And it was hilarious. We had everything. We had that sound of like from Metal Gear Solid that you see in a lot of things. That's when people pop up in the metaphor. We even had that dude, I forget his name, he's hilarious. The guy was like, just throws his shoe, was like, emotional damage.
Yes.
We had all
The
of this.
Chinese comedian, yeah.
I forget his name. He's so funny. He makes my TikTok like worth the risk.
Yes.
And among others, old time hockey is also a favorite, but and so we're doing, and it's hilarious. And in the beginning, he even had like the whole thing was hilarious. The people we showed, everybody was like laughing but paying attention, and they were like, "This was gold." Everybody watched the whole thing. Everybody can answer. I tested it. Yeah, it's fun. Yeah, it seems like I try to make it seem like so fun, and people wonder, "Is this even work?" And then the feedback I got was like, "Yeah, it wasn't about being fun YouTube videos. This was about a very serious corporate thing." We're like, nobody wants to watch that. Everybody loved this. The person in the video loved it. The 5 people who've seen it loved it. You laughed and loved it and watched the whole thing. I'm like, literally everything you're asking for, and we're making it special. Like, and then the response I got was, well, when I speak to my students of blah, blah, because she was like a substitute at a university and whatnot, I was like, they have to be there. We have to earn people's attention in this case. So why are they so boring? I think because people feel like they have to be. And I think that's such a great opportunity. It also
Exactly.
pisses me off because they usually only figure it out once you show somebody something really cool. And then they're like, ooh, I'm not comfortable taking the risk of being the one who approved this in case somebody thinks it's not
Oh,
funny.
yeah.
Hey,
Yes.
we had a hilarious newsletter going internally. Like everybody just loved it. And people like, this was great. They're like, Bernard, I know it's you. We know we kept it like that. It was the company name, World News kind of thing. And then there were going to be some layoffs. And the head of HR said, you have to stop your funny and appreciated newsletter. I don't want to, make light of this dark moment with our attempts at humor. And I was like, wow, you should give motivational speeches. I'm like, and I was like, some would argue that this would be the best time than ever if we can do it with sensitivity.
Yeah.
Don't be insensitive. Don't be a dick.
I have a similar story when we started NetGraph with La Toile du Québec. Of course, the level of IQ in that company was super high, and it was my first, and I thought it was normal. When I went to work for other people after, I said, "Oh, we had like a paradise." But of course, a few of my partners were like typical thinker, accountants and business people, and I actually took them as partners because I didn't know anything about business. I was a nerd, a geek. So we had this same intranet kind of thing with jokes and uh, patterns and or subculture. And I had the same conversation with one of my partners, and he found that it was edgy. He started with edgy and then dangerous, and then somebody can sue us, or so he had us to take it down. But we were programmers. What do you think we did? What do you think we did? We had a subculture on a subnet. So yeah, and I remember clearly that day, the senior management of the company took a hit because of that decision. And
what do you mean? Like, what do you mean they took a hit?
The geeks said, "Okay, we're a corporation now."
Oh, I think
We're a
it's
corporation
inevitable.
now. Yes, it is inevitable, but I was the only one left. I was there only one of us left, and that brought me personally a lot of pride and happiness, actually. What they did when I left was tremendous. But yeah, I was one of the boys because I'm not being sexist, but we were boys. And yeah, that day, and then it was the year we became public. And so I remember vividly the signature session when you bring a startup to the stock market. You have a full day of signature, like tons and tons and tons of documents. And I realized that day, oh, I might be done here.
Like that's when it hit you. You're like,
Oh,
this
yeah, yeah,
is
yeah.
no longer
This
this is
was
no
the
longer a pirate ship.
this was the first hint. The second hint was we had to move offices, and I met someone in the corridor, in the hallway, carrying a not an LCD. The computer screens were used. There were huge televisions, so he was carrying a huge one. I didn't know the guy, so I asked him, "Who's your boss?" And the name of her boss, I didn't know. And then one of my partners said, "Yeah, she's the new blah 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 VP under na na na." Said, "Oh, okay. Now I'm done because now I don't know everyone in my own company." We were like 250-ish, going to 400 in the next semester. And I said, "No, I need to know not just their names, but their story." I'm a big people person. If I don't know your story, how can I relate to you? For a lot of people, it doesn't matter. But to me, in my own company, it was very difficult. Then I had the difficulty of working for somebody else, which was kind of new to me. But yeah, it was fun.
I mean, it sounds like you're in that relational sense, sounds like you're the tree and you connect with the people, and the roots only really make sense if you can sort of get what's behind that level. I don't know if you can sort of see the image,
Yeah.
but like I can relate. They say a village or a group, and I think the same thing is true of a company organization. When you pass 150
Oh, yeah, it
people,
is.
literally the number I think is 150.
150.
There's a disconnect that happens, and that has to happen just by the natural order of the interaction necessary. But the same thing is true with the
Over
village.
I don't remember the name of the theory, but it's more than a theory. It's a known hypothesis. It's what the number is 150. You're right, and beyond 150, it separates into two groups until it reaches 150 again. So if you have a large company, try to keep your departments to 150.
Yeah, you know what I've noticed, Chris, is that bringing logical arguments to large companies is generally it's pretty daring enterprise, and one that usually ends in disappointment. No offense.
No, exactly.
Just
And
saying, like the odds of that message making it.
and if it does, if the message lands, it's because it's going well. The first day it's going to start going badly. People are going to go back to their own habits, go back to the way we always did it, and less risk. We become more conservatives in wartime, right? So I think it's the same with corporations and probably families too, and relationships in general.
I think so. Villages. I mean, I think it's just part of the human nature, at least the one that I know.
Yeah. So the 150, by the way, the 150 number comes from I think anthropologists like kind of figured out that the usual Homo sapiens tribes, what about between 100 and 150 individuals? This is
What do you
the
think
kind.
that is? Do you think it's systemic, the limit, or do you think it's like intellect, like our capacity to recognize and associate people?
It's our capacity to remember. The ground of the research is your capacity to remember the name and a short story about that person.
Did you type that up while we were talking just to find that, or
No. No, I actually studied it, but I don't remember the specifics, but it's about the size. And if you look at the anthropological record, I think it kind of confirms this. And also, if you look at anyone's general population, LinkedIn profile is 150, Facebook friends, 150. It's rarely beyond that.
Interesting.
Yeah,
Interesting.
I think it's a capacity. There was an interesting. I think it's a TED talk or probably a TEDx by Yuval Harari, the one who wrote *Sapiens* and *Homo Deus* and historian. And he started his talk by citing the miracle of him speaking to that audience. And that miracle is he's one Homo sapien with an idea that he wants to share with as many people as possible. So he hires a PR firm. They book him in a venue, but some people at the venue work to, just make arrangement for everything to happen. And he finishes by saying, none of us know each other, and we all work toward this common ground. And his conclusion is what separates Homo sapiens from other primates is we can work with a large number of people flexibly. On the contrary, ants work with a huge amount of number of their own species, but very rigidly. And other apes, or I think it's the chimpanzees, they're kind of flexible, but the number is much, much lower. Like it's 15 to 20 individuals that they trust.
I think that brings us, the nature versus nurture. And I just rebranded that. I call it creature versus culture, which I think
it's pretty clever.
And the reason for that is that it speaks, really about the environment. And see what you're saying about the chimps. I'm not surprised, but chimps are very much in the wild, generally speaking, or, immediately removed from it, and are going to be in a situation of low trust, right? Most of everybody you'll ever meet should not be trusted because obvious reasons, self-preservation.
Well, it used to be the same for us humans.
I was going to say, take, I know, for example, people who've gone through communism and, all the modern illiterate arguments in favor of, of that, be damned. But I mean, you look at these guys and they're like, there's a small nucleus, a small unit. They're like immediate family. I don't trust my neighbor. I'm not saying shit to anybody. And, except in the family, keep it in the family, keep it in the family, outside it's like this. So I think it's very much cultural. I wouldn't go, I would narrow that zoom from sapiens to sapiens who've had the luxury of operating in a community where it's okay to wave and talk to your neighbor and reveal some information like I like hockey. So it's I'm really curious to see where we go as a society as we're sort of heading into like very low trust situations. And I don't want to,
I have a saying about this. When I was 8, I wanted to be like Luke Skywalker. When I was a teenager, I looked up to Han Solo. Now at 55, I think Darth Vader has a point.
You know what? Do you know what I've learned with Star Wars? Is that we should all be lucky as to have a friend like Chewbacca.
Oh yeah.
I think that's the real thing in life. Is just if you can meet your Chewbacca, I mean, life is good.
Yeah, but Chewbacca's a dog. It's a golden retriever.
He knows how to shoot a crossbow. I mean, that's worth something. He can drive a spaceship. That's worth something.
It's worth something.
I mean, these are marketable skills in some kind of future that occurs in the past, which is...
Yeah, and if you look at... I think we're still, deep down, we're still afraid of that era where you could go out hunting and not come back.
Yeah.
Because your prey made you its prey. And we kind of forgot about that because society is very comfortable, especially in the West. Notwithstanding, I know some people live in abject poverty still, but overall, it's going way better.
Numbers, yeah.
Exactly. So we have forgotten, but not that much. Look at all that culture of apocalyptic movies and books and stories. I mean, Red Riding Hood is a horror movie. And we tell that tell that tale to young children. Why? Because it used to be that way. You go out and the wolf would eat you.
I think people
And
still have it. It's more conceptual now than it is experiential, right? People are like, oh my God, pedophiles. Sure. But
yeah, sure.
but like that's you've never actually interacted with that or actually witnessed it. You've all had it by,
I was raised in the 70s. So pedophiles
it was just
were
uncles back then, right?
exactly.
It was just some guy in a Chevrolet.
There was this guy in the park who would like just touch himself, right? And my father just told me, the guy is on that bench, go play on the other bench.
That's not bad
That was
advice.
it. That
Yep.
was it. That was it. Nobody got molested or anything. The police came a few times, asked us a few questions, escorted the guy out of the park, and he came back the day after.
There you go. Did your father ever think of taking a camera, filming himself, and talking to it about how it is, and then sharing it to the world instead of
Nope.
intervening and then
No.
managing
Well,
people's opinions about that and just letting that keep him up at night? Or was
never.
he busy raising a family? Just
Busy
asking,
busy asking for a friend. Yeah. He was busy and he didn't care. And if all else failed, he would have confronted the man himself, because that's what men did at the time.
Cringe.
Yep.
I mean, it's crazy that we're doing that now, though, isn't it? Like it's crazy that people have that reflex, and I say we, like the royal we. I do it too. I'm like, ooh, that's awesome. And every now and then I'm like, wait, why don't you just enjoy it with your own lens? Like, enjoy this beautiful sunset. It never comes out well on a picture, anyways.
I almost have zero tangible memories of all my kids' shows because I watched them.
Oh,
I didn't record them. I don't say that with regrets. At one point, my elder asked me, "Do you have a video of me playing the flute?" And I said, "I probably have something like a short version somewhere." But no, I mean, finding that now, 20 years later, is probably impossible. And she kind of regretted, because all her friends had some like videos of themselves. But I said, I don't from myself. So you don't, and you will have to make your own memories of your own kids. That's how it works. And it's in my head. And if I want to see that show again, I just close my eyes and think, and I see them at 5 years old and 8 years old and 12 years old.
Well, I think Lucky, the part she may in time come to appreciate is the fact that she gets to have that be in the sense that you're such a good storyteller.
Yeah,
it's kind of like, tell me the story about this kind of a thing. So like, you'll make a great like aging parent with dementia someday, because they get to ask that, and like most of those circuits are probably still going to be available. So I think that's
probably. But yeah, you're right. And this is exactly what they do.
tell me the story.
Dinner.
How lucky are you? You get to have your kids still ask you in their 20s and all these, whatever age they're at, but like, tell me a story,
Tell me a story. Exactly. And I don't have to, bring them to bed. They can do that on their own, and probably much later than me now. But yeah, I can still do that. And they like it because they have my perspective, and they make up their own memory, and they see themselves through my eyes. I was a spectator. I was in the audience watching them perform.
That's it. The stage is, it's not everybody who knows this, but the stage is an awkward, lonely place, right?
Oh, it is a lonely place.
But also, it's like, whether it's musical or something, there's always like this weird space in front. And, because I think you're the one, I saw like one of your keynotes once, and you're just there. You're like, could be 1,000 people. But one guy yells, "You suck," he will be the single thing you're going to remember. So you're like, you're up there, you're talking, you're like, wow, that's a lot of empty seats. I hope the mustard on my shirt doesn't appear. Like, it's the stage is the only place that people are just there. But when you're in the crowd, all your attention is there, right? So there's this sort of asymmetric exchange. So
Yeah,
even if it's a jammed house, you're like, oh, look at those 3 empty seats,
I remember vividly.
You can see the bathroom and a guy walking out,
But you did me good once. You were the guy shouting from the back. That was actually a great joke. I don't even remember what was my subject matter, but you've I knew you purposely asked a tough question that would put me in a difficult position to answer, which I think I did cleverly.
You did brilliantly. If I'm not mistaken, you were giving a keynote and a presentation at a tech thing at Shopify.
Yes,
and
yes,
you were
that was the one.
the first stage AI guy, and you were talking about the value of newsletters and consent and that thing. And I remembered I asked a question, and one of it, because I didn't know you were giving a keynote, my colleagues were like, hey, we're going to Shopify, there's this thing. And then I see you on stage, I'm like, oh, this will be great. Like, this guy's really good. They're like, oh, really? I'm like, of course, man. And we're there. But there was something missing. And deep down, I was like, one, I wanted to know. I'll never ask unless I actually want to know. Two, in my own weird generosity, I was like, I would like Chris to have more time on stage. And I was like, it's like, I deep down, I'm like, I knew there's no simple answer to that,
But I must admit, when I saw you rise and go to the mic, and I told myself, yeah, this could be bad.
No, why would I do that?
No. But I mean, I knew you would set me up positively, but I would have to think to my answer.
It's worth debating in public. I have no issue with that unless the situation doesn't call for it. But no, that was a great keynote. I've explained email in that exact way to somebody once, and I was like, I saw this keynote once, and he explained the notion of consent and whatnot. Does that still stand, you think, with newsletters? Because now we're being bombarded, and there is not.
Well, there are laws actually, but they're not. You cannot implement them really well, and different countries have different regulations. I went for a month in Europe last fall, and they're pretty severe. In Canada, here in Quebec in particular, we get a lot of spam.
We do. But there's and I mean that, but even in the sense, it's not even spam in the unauthorized marketing publications. But I just mean, like, if I want 10% off of an item, I will spend every single day for the next month deleting an email, creating that multiplied by every purchase. And I was like, wow. Like, how I haven't seen the numbers recently, but I'm like, we're going to need a new way. And they get your SMS too. They're like, oh, give me your SMS. You'll get 25%. And we'll bombard you there. Like, marketers, we kind of ruin everything, don't we?
Yeah, exactly. Speaking of marketing, I noticed that much earlier, you mentioned metaphors. Speaking in metaphors, writing in metaphors, which is it's not a gift for everyone.
Metaphors are my love language.
Oh yeah. But I think it's like a next level. I want to pinpoint on one metaphor you used, because you were speaking after me in the same event, and you started off by saying, what's worse than going after Chris on a public stage? Which I know could be daunting if you're not good, but you're good. So, and your first slide was a picture of Adolf Hitler, and your metaphor was everybody was cringing, right? You start
they didn't cringe. I mean,
I saw fair, them. I was in the room.
I was looking at the room. Wasn't my first slide. But it's linguistic. It's in French, in English, and almost every other language. Notoriety is something that has a negative connotation to it.
Yes, yes.
And for some reason in French Canada, and in French, like notoriety is can be positive, and it's a weird nuance, but it can also be negative. So what I and they asked me to make a thing about how to be notorious online, like how to increase your notoriety online. I was like, well, it's pretty easy. It's like, how notorious do you want to be? Like, what business objective or outcome are you linking this to? Because, some people are notorious for this. Some people are, it wasn't my first slide, to be
Oh
fair.
yeah,
Because I had
but
Richard
it was
Branson
in your
before that.
introduction. Yeah, it
I
was
had
in
Apple, and then I said some people are so notorious that they ruined the style of mustache. And
exactly. That was the kicker.
and it was a political poster that somebody had put up, and then somebody had just drawn the mustache on him, and I had seen that the day before, and I was like, that's that. There it is. There it is. There it is. And so, like, if you can get in a business setting people to laugh at a Hitler joke, I think you're setting the tone for a very open-minded discussion and easygoing
Yeah,
thing.
yeah. It's a joke about Hitler, not about the Holocaust.
Yes, I mean, well,
Yeah, yeah,
yes.
yeah.
I thought it was a mustache joke, but
No. Your joke was about mustache and branding. Which was very clever, very clever. But we were like metaphor, and sometimes in a business setting, using metaphors, they just drop dead. You're in a meeting, you speak in metaphor, it drops dead, and it's probably a sign that you're in the wrong room. But also, I'm at that stage. I'm asking myself, how can I not teach but instill? Let's say instill in others the metaphor thinking. And there's a great book by Temple Grandin. She's an autistic woman and it's I think the book is called Thinking and Image, Visual Thinking. And she discovered very late in her life, like I did, that she was thinking in images, not in words. And for a wordsmith like I am, it seems counterintuitive, but I see pictures. So I'm a great storyteller probably because I see the story develop inside my mind. But most people think in language, not in image. And when you use a metaphor, you're actually painting a picture with your words.
I guess. Yeah. I mean, what a strange paradigm it must have been for you to be reading that book and have that parallel reality, right? She sees with
Yes.
the same level of clarity, except with a different modality.
And learning at the same time that, not everybody thinks that way. I thought every humans thought that way, that we saw pictures.
I think everybody to a certain extent does. It just depends on
Yeah, your ammo. What is your
Yeah.
ammo? And yeah,
Well, I think I think if we can just link things together, I think it's just easier for people to understand, right? I've never said my job is to communicate things. I've always figured my job is to help ideas get across or ideas be understood. So and so when you're saying metaphors, I mean everybody does a metaphor. It's just that again, marketers, we kind of ruin everything,
we
and
do.
including bankers. And so now everybody who's in the selling IPOs and selling tech stocks, what do they do? Is they always use the metaphor. Oh, it's the iPad of water bottles. Oh, it's the Uber of water bottles. And it's always that. It's forcing you to make a link. And that's just because something's already anchored in your mind. And it takes a lot. It's lazy at the end of the day if you do it gratuitously. And it's amazingly effective if you do it intelligently. Right. So, but it's like, oh, so it's the Uber of this. Yeah. Why are people saying that? Oh, well, why is everybody saying AI in their financial calls these days? Because they feel like they have to. But I mean, the people get the real metaphor. The people get it really, who get that, not a metaphor, but a connection. I
Yeah.
think the message becomes so much more understood that the person can repeat it in a manner that's accurate and sincere. And if you can get that metric, your message is like it's unstoppable.
Yeah, and uh, humans invented language a long time ago. We don't know. Writing is very recent. The invention of writing is very, very recent. But language is very old. and even before language, if we look at other apes, other primates, they have some form of language. It's not articulated language, but they have some forms of language. So I think language is an old pattern in our brains, but the written word is very different. There's still like a third of humanity who still can't read or write.
I think that number's going to go up. I don't think
Yeah.
people are going to be reading and writing more now that you can just talk to a computer
Exactly.
or a device and
Oh,
hopefully
I gave a conference about AI a few weeks back. It was for union workers in the construction field, so not your typical office workers, right? And
that had to be a fun crowd.
it was they're very, very pragmatic. They build things.
I was going to say, like,
they build the universe. That's what they do.
I'm looking, if I look out, outside out the window, there's not much in my field of view that has not been the result of somebody building it.
Exactly. So, and my first slide was a prompt on a billboard in a building that says, "Hey, ChatGPT, finish this building," which is like, it's never going to happen, right? So everybody cheered. And one woman, older, like early 60s, came to me very shy, very embarrassed to tell me that she can't use those tools because she doesn't know how to write. She's incapable of learning how to write, and she faked everything in her career. Like we know a few celebrities who cannot write and read. And I showed her my phone, and I spoke to ChatGPT, and ChatGPT answered with its British voice that I chose. And she looked at me, and I saw the paradigm shift in her mind. And in the afternoon, she looked for me in the crowd and found me and was so proud to show me that she started speaking with ChatGPT. That, I think,
Nice.
changed a lot of things for her. But can you imagine? I went abroad in Europe and for a month, and it was in Croatia. I know nothing about Croatian. Like it doesn't resemble anything. I can fake Russian. I can fake Italian. I can't fake Croatian. But ChatGPT was my friend. I spoke to ChatGPT, turned the phone to the clerk, and there you go. I have milk now, or I have meat, or I have tomatoes. It's a fantastic times to live in.
It really is. It really is. You know what? I get tremendous satisfaction in those contexts, and you'll have to tell me what exactly is faking Italian or faking Russian. No, I mean,
well, actually, Italian I can understand. I can read it. Russian, I can just have the gestures and
I get
and
huge satisfaction from actually being able to interact, like just picking up that new piece of language and whatnot, and being able to interact. There is, I don't know what saying is, but I'm pretty sure there's a picture of Morgan Freeman next to it. But it's pretty much if you speak to somebody in their language, you speak to their heart. I don't know what Morgan Freeman said before that, but like it comes up with that, and that has been my experience in life. And if I'm in the reactions business, it's because I've found out eventually, you get yelled at a few times, you notice the pattern, and I found out later on that I'm actually pretty low empathy. This came about when somebody yelled at me, "Oh my God, you have no empathy." And I was like, "Oh, I'm a nice guy, I'm not an asshole as far as I know." And then I was like, so I dug a little bit into that, and I was like, "Oh, no, I am." But, I think we confused empathy with sympathy. Empathy is neither good nor bad. It is the ability, if I'm going to simplify it, to proactively read the room.
Yeah.
Whereas I reactively read the room. I have never noticed that a girl had a crush on me until I later found out that every girl I had a crush on had a crush on me too. And I was like, God damn it. But because of that, I need a bigger reaction, right? So my ability to create sort of conflict or reactions or mild malaise is something I've just worked on over time, because I can do that and then I can get a bigger reaction out of people. I'm like, oh, okay, now I have a better idea. And then I just learned over time, I'm like, I set it up and then you can put it down, right? You
Yeah.
can, like, conflict is at the heart of every story. So if you can just get a conflict, get a bit of reaction out of people, then you hear something and then you resolve it, which is the basis of humor, right?
Yeah.
So
Exactly. Tension,
tension,
resolve.
release, resolve,
Yeah.
exactly.
Yeah.
So and that's what I'm doing. And the thing is, so for me to be able to pick up those reactions, if I go to Italy, for example, and I just start speaking with people, and I just the two best reactions are people who are like, oh my God, like, just like, it's so cool, you speak so well, which is usually more polite than honest,
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
still I appreciate it, grazie mille. But the other part is also, I get so much satisfaction out of somebody just conversing normally to me and not noticing that I'm a foreigner, because we're just having a discussion in that language. I get so much
Yeah.
satisfaction from that I
Yes.
would rather not use the tools for that exact thing. I would be mad at myself if I did what you just described in Croatia.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I felt the same way. I felt like cheating, but it was so practical.
Oh, dude,
Uh,
yeah, and at some point it's like, yeah, can I just get to the airport before I miss my flight?
yeah, exactly.
Let's not
Or
flip through the
or
dictionary.
it was also a way of being polite with other people. Of course, I knew all the polite words. I knew how to say hello, how to ask, how to say thank you, and so on. Because every time I go to a country, I learn at least those 10 to 12 words that will go everywhere, right? But to sustain a conversation, and the problem I have is mostly with all languages, except the Asian languages, I have zero accent. I can actually, like I said, when I say I can fake Russian or can fake Italian, somebody might think I'm speaking Italian and start speaking at their speed and their level very quickly. And I have to say, whoa, 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 time out. My Italian isn't so good. It's not because I said that sentence perfectly that I
Okay, I
speak
hear you.
Italian.
So it's just that you sound fluent from day one, kind of a thing.
Yeah, and I had the same problem in the 90s in Hungary. I lived in Budapest for a whole summer, and after a few soiree and drinks and stuff, I knew my way around a bar or a restaurant, and I could speak the things. The conversation with a waiter is minimal when you come to think of it.
It's quickly mastered.
You can seem fluent but if the same waiter asks you about your coat or your meal or something, then you're screwed. You cannot go on, and they look at you like weird. But you just spoke Hungarian to me. But
Okay,
did
yeah,
I?
okay, so that's
But did
freak
I?
Russian.
Yeah.
Okay, all right. Well,
Yeah.
spasiba
Plus,
for
when
that explanation.
I used to play chess competitively, so there were a lot of Russian people. So I got also the lingo and the slurs and the way to provoke another player. So I could still make a Russian chess player mad.
Like, how do you talk shit, or how do you trash talk a chess player in Russian? Like,
Well,
I'm kind of
well, you just say the bad word like etsuka or kurva, like when they do a bad move or something. It's ridiculous, but it's just the fact that they don't know that you don't know. If you say one or two
chess
words,
players are so sensitive.
they are.
I think chess would be more fun if it involved a bit of the physicality of hockey.
Well, did you know that there's boxing and chess combined together? So you do a round of boxing, and then you go play a round of chess, and then depending on the board, you have advantage or disadvantage in the next round of boxing. It's a thing in
Do you know what's
Russia.
tragic about that is that by the time you've played enough to become a master, the CTE kicks in, and you're
Yeah. And also there's people don't realize this about elite athlete of any kind. Like the difference between an NHL player in hockey and the best junior rank player is tremendous. The difference between the top 10 in the league and the rest of the league is tremendous. tremendous. And when Magnus Carlsen, the number one ranked chess player right now,
Of
sits at a
course.
board, he knows he's gonna at least draw, probably win. It's unfathomable that to know that feeling, because we're never that good at anything. But those super specialists, they are, and amongst themselves, one or two are very good. Magnus Carlsen made a blindfold chess simultaneous games against 24 people, blindfolded, 24 chess boards. The players were chess grandmasters, not you and me. They were chess grandmasters, champions of their countries. And he won the match 22 victories, 1 draw, 1 loss.
What was your record? I've seen a picture of you and your, you know.
Oh, well, blindfold, I could do 2 games only.
No. But I
Blindfold.
saw a picture of you, like, pensively considering one of many boards. I was always
Oh
like,
yeah. Well, when I was in the high school, I played against 24 people, 24 board. But then again, my level wasn't even
yeah.
close to the professional level. But I was good enough not even to be scared to lose one game. When you play against parents of your colleagues or students, it's there was no chance, not a chance. I think I once drew a game.
Do you? So here's a question. I know I'm supposed to be the subject here, but like here's a question. Something you work a lot, and I've been really enjoying reading the stuff you're putting out on LinkedIn with
Oh, thank you.
the
Thank you.
Geek Whisperer, all that. And what I love most is hitting the like button on people I know who are sharing your stuff, and I'm like, that is good. This is like, well done. I'm super, like, for some reason proud, but I'm mostly just happy for you. And
Thank
I'm
you.
like, and
Well,
sorry.
go ahead with your question, because I have a short story about that. But go ahead with your question.
Well, see, and with that, and I've always, for better or for worse, considered you to be a very smart individual and very talented. And the challenge I think, or I found, with having a lot, when somebody has a lot of talents and whatnot, you end up having these big expectations from yourself, and you're talking about these elite athletes and whatnot. Like, what has been, if any, your experience with the frustration and, like, sort of self high standards / disappointment of being such a high functioning, whatever all your levers are? You look at,
It's
when, like, how do you work with that balance of, like, wow, all these things I haven't done yet, if at all?
it's a great question that I ask myself often, especially in my 50s. But I I I think one of my superpowers is empathy. I have like super empathy.
Sounds cool.
To a fault. I can physically. I say I can. I don't wish I did, by the way, but I can physically receive the fear of others, or the anger of other, or the sadness of others. Like somebody very sad will speak to me, and I will feel genuinely very sad to cry myself, probably. Even if it's I watch a movie or something. Um, I I I think I surrendered myself, or I was able to put myself into groups that are like similar or needed my superpower. Or so I was kind of lucky. Plus, I come from very humble / poor family, so I wasn't destined to do high in school, but I was recruited by the Les Prêtres Sulpiciens in Montreal, and they went from school to school in less favorable districts, and they would ask the teachers, who are your 2 best boys, and they would invite us to do the exams. And I did, and I got into Collège de Montréal, and they paid for my whole scholarship for 5 years, and then 2 years of cégep. So I was very, very lucky. So it got me out of that, and it made me meet people that are more like me.
Mm.
It's later in life that I realized that, oh, not everybody is quick. Let's say smart. You use the word smart. Thank you. But quick, or speak in metaphors, or think in layers, or like a tree-like thinking, like branch out. So you think of something, think something else, something else. Um, and I found it rare, so I try to avoid those rooms.
Mm.
If I'm not, if I cannot speak like that or be understood like that, it just means it's not for me. Not that there's anything wrong in that room, but I don't fit in that
It
room.
takes too much out of you.
Yeah. Oh, it does. It does. And I have good days and bad days. So if I have a good day, I can fake it. If I have a bad day, then my empathy is hindered by my impatience.
When I say smart, by the way, if and I've come to appreciate the multiple layers and versions of intelligence over time. So every like the just beyond not just the pure intellect or ability to express it, but I love the sport of hockey. I hate the NHL, although I'm happy the Canadians are doing well. But I love the sport of hockey. The Olympics have me really
Yeah.
psyched. Even
Yeah.
though I think the U.S. has spent the past 20 years investing in making more people play, and Canada has spent the past 20 years investing in selling jerseys and tournaments. So I don't think like all of our players are old. Most people, so I think we're going to need a slight governance shift if that's to be anything. And if you look at all sorts of indicators have been saying the U.S. is kind of ripe, and the real KPI I think is if you play like the recent video game and the U.S. team has a higher overall score than Canada, and I'm like, it sucks, but it's accurate. And
Yeah.
the reason why I want to say that is that I come from modest budgeted background. I mean, I was living, I think, not far from where you grew up. So
Yeah.
I was not able to play hockey, and I wanted to play goalie. And usually goalie can play because nobody wants to play goalie. So they just have gear at the arena that they just, clean up,
Suck,
and
but
they
yeah.
lend it to anybody who wants to play, except at my arena because the guy sold it for booze. So womp womp. But I later on went to play and realized that I really suck. I had any talent I thought I did have was not. But some guys in the locker room would come in and they would say, like this guy, one of these guys comes in, he would say like the most vile stuff. You're just like, dude, shut up. Like, I don't know you. I think you're kind of funny, but I'm like, you can't say that about your stepdaughter. What the, I'm like, my mind, I'm like, yeah, what the hell, man? And then you see him on the ice and his spatial intelligence and his
Yes.
physical ability. And I call this the quarterback factor. You want to see how smart these guys are. You try to do what they do without any of the pressure and with that accuracy, and then add the variables and add the decision. And then you hear some of these guys talk. You're like, wow, this guy's, and so verbally, he is,
Limited.
he is not your first all-star team.
Yeah.
And then, but you see him, you see that for him. And that was my first deep glimpse. I'm like, this guy is this vulgar fucking idiot is a genius. I was like, I could not believe how precise somebody could calculate. It's like Mario Lemieux, man. He was on slow motion faster than all of us.
Yes.
And like this guy I was like, oh, it blew my mind. And that was the first time in my life where I realized I'm like,
it's beautiful.
It was absolute, like seeing it in person. And that's when I realized, I'm like, wow, this guy is like, choose that guy. Don't take me. Don't take, if we're having a debate, maybe I can help. But I was like, and that was my first exposure to what I call all the different flavors and dimensions of intelligence. And I've just been sort of blown away by that ever since.
I watch a lot of YouTube videos about many things. I think I have 214 categories on my YouTube. One of them is woodworking, and there's this master woodworker who makes the most like soft-spoken, slow videos. And during the video, he takes a plank of wood and he like shapes it into something flat. It's not even sculpture. He makes it flat. with a hand plane, and I could watch him for hours. He's so good, so good. You've played boards because I've lent you a hand plane. I know you did, and you did a good job. You know how hard it is, and how you must learn very quickly how to hide your mistakes.
Yeah.
That guy takes the same hand plane, do a flick of a finger, and just the hand plane works perfectly. The shavings go out the hand plane, and it's beautiful to watch. And then you go see Usain Bolt run, and you try to figure out, okay, he's very fast. No, he's not just very fast. He's very good at standing up. He's also very good at lifting his knees. He's super good at keeping his head straight. And if you add up all those small superpower he has, he's still the world champion.
It's unreal. It's can I sort of go back to that what you were saying before, like the difference between elite and professionals, and then professionals and everyday people. I saw there's this one dude. I have nothing like your YouTube experience. I'm not elite, but there is this guy called Phil Gaiman. I very much, for the past 15 years, have been enjoying the sport of cycling, doing it, but also watching it.
Oh, yeah.
And Phil Gaiman is his YouTube channel. The premise for his YouTube channel wasn't actually his YouTube channel. His friends just started filming him, right? There's this thing that some people who live athletically call Strava. It's an app. And you log your, you just start Strava, you do your bike ride, it follows you, and there's all these little like, oh, in this segment, you did a record. It's really cool. And if you don't like data, whatever, tomato, potato, but if you will learn to love it, because it's like, oh, I've done better than this. Like, we all have this need for growth and all, and it's just, it really helps. Now, what Phil Gaiman did is that there's always King of the Mountains, right? This is a category in cycling,
climbers,
Tour de France and whatnot. So King of the Mountain is the mountain starts here, it ends here. That part's pretty obvious. Whoever has the best time up it. And there's one, for example, in Montreal, and also if you go to Mount Washington, you go in Vermont, all these different things, all the big Mont Ventoux in France. So there's a King of the Mountain, and it's Strava, so it's a record. So pros will have the records in France, right?
Yeah.
So what Phil Gaiman did is he got tired. He was a bike pro, and so his whole premise is, I was a bike pro. He's like, look, everybody has that one friend they say could be a pro. And I was a bike pro. I was always the fastest guy anybody had ever met. Everybody knew I was going to go pro. I knew I was going to go pro. I'd go place. I'd be by far the fastest. I was obviously the one who was going to go pro. So I did go pro, and I sucked. Okay? I sucked big time. I didn't even come close to being of any use to any of the teams, who all ended up firing me. And I was the fastest guy, and I still am. So fuck all of you guys. I'm going to go beat your King of the Mountains. I'm going to go take all your friends' records so everybody can just shut the hell up about my friend could go pro. He could not, and I'm going to prove it to you. This is literally his introduction to YouTube. I was like, go on, let's see where this goes.
Yeah, the level is so much high. And, most people don't realize it.
So many records. I think he has like 100 King of the Mountain records.
There was a discussion at golf. Phil Mickelson, one of the greatest, was asking his caddy. He's had the same caddy for 25 years, I think. He's best friend. And his caddy told him he was like 214 yards out. That means out of the green, but that probably means 235 yards to the pin. Of course, he knows the layout of the green, and there's a tree to his left with some branches coming in. It's a dead tree, and there are some branches going over the fairway. And his caddy says, if you aim for, the big branch there, if you aim for the small branches, there are two small branches, you should be good. And Phil Mickelson asked, which one are the two? They're a feet apart, 200 yards away. And he asks, which one? And without missing a beat, the caddy says the left one. Because he knows to Phil Mickelson, it's important. Now, I also know that any professional, some professionals, they need to know all these details. They're probably blue in their Nova disc or disc psychology assessment. And I know that they cannot tell their body to aim for the left, but they need to know before they take their stance, do their pre-shot routine, and execute. They miss most of the time, by the way. Roger Federer, in a not a TED talk, but it was in a conference. He said that his hit rate for a point is 54%, not 74, not 84. He wins 54% of every points he played. And that made him the best in the world. So when you're not good, you probably miss 70% of your points. And when you're really good, you're 50-50. And when you're close to Federer, you're 53%. He's 54. That's why he's the best. The difference at this level is infinitesimal.
Yeah.
And I think it's beautiful.
It makes it, once you realize that, I think it really makes you appreciate the art, you know?
Yeah.
You go from rooting for a team to just enjoying the show.
There is not 15% difference in speed between the world record of the 100-meter dash and the marathon. The marathon and 100-meter dash, they go about the same speed, minus 15% for the marathon. Think about that.
You know, I'm okay not thinking about that. Like I'm just gonna remember that. I'm like, yeah, I'm good.
That's my autistic trait.
Like, you know, I don't need to. It's not a rabbit hole I need to go down. I'm like, yeah, I'll satisfy myself with this knowledge, and for some obscure reason, I will remember those numbers.
You say that, but you have your own rabbit holes. I mean, the winemaking thing. Let's talk about that.
That is.
I've had the pleasure, by the way, to taste your wines. They're fantastic, everyone.
Thank you.
But that's you've pushed it to a level most DIYer don't do.
It's getting harder and harder to find the answers to some questions. The good news is, part of the world I live in, which is Quebec, has really interesting winemaking scene, like the pros and whatnot. And so I just especially when they had a hard time with labor, I just called them up and I've said, I know some of them a little bit, you know, I've seen them at the wine tasting. They're like, hey, you know, you're pretty funny and you do a lot of metaphors. So they're like, I was like, hey, do you guys, can I get some grapes from you? And they tend to answer. They're like, hey, come and help us pick them off the vines and you can just leave with however many you want.
Wow.
And I was like, okay. Took them up on that, brought the biggest Tuppermade thing I could bring. And they're like, yeah, no problem. Is that the only one? I was like, yes, because I should have brought more. But, so I'm doing that, but I can speak with their winemakers, their professional winemakers. I'm like, hey, where do you buy your supplies? That place, great. So I'm going to talk to those guys now. So I'm now getting closer to that because the best book I found is the Winemaking for Dummies. It is phenomenal. The guy who wrote this writes in a style not unlike yours, where it's very personal. You know, he can make like a Forrest Gump joke in there, and I'm like, well played, sir. And you just go and there's answers and a lot of insight. Also, it kind of gives you cues to where to go digging. But at some point, I'm like, all right, you know, I'm using the B7 bacteria to inoculate malolactic fermentation. I didn't co-inoculate, and I'm at 2 strikes already. Should I keep trying, or should I bring up, you know, my sulfur dioxide level kind of? And it's getting harder and harder to find that answer on Reddit because at some point, when you get deep into something, you realize you're like, oh, I think I've reached that point where I need to become the answer now. And then hopefully I remember to share it with others because somebody else, if you find the key to the kingdom, to any kingdom, I think the best thing you can do is like, all right, don't guard it. Don't guard it. Open the doors and tell people, hey guys, look what I found. And just go like that, you know? Even though I have that stupid selfish reflex of like, ooh, do I give it to myself? Do I keep them? No. Some version of me is looking for this answer right now. Help that guy. You know?
Exactly. And I think you mentioned my practice on LinkedIn. Thank you again for this. But I started writing about others, not about me. And if you go on LinkedIn, most people talk about themselves because it's a marketplace for being hired. I'm not looking to be hired on LinkedIn. And when I make an article like this, the one I wrote Monday earlier this week about hypersensitive people. It resonated so much. I've got like tens and tens of comments and also direct messages. People asking me, could you talk to my mom? Could you speak to my boss to explain them how I feel? And of course I can't, and I won't, even if I could, because that's not my battle to have. But when you speak about others and their troubles, speaking about yourself, when you're presenting, and you're a keynote speaker yourself, if you speak about yourself, you'll bore the audience in a minute. If you speak about something that might interest them, you're luckier. If you speak about them, they'll listen.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think I think you're touching a lot of people. So like, keep going. Every now and then you hit that lull where you're like, why am I doing this kind of thing? Like, keep going. I think you're touching more people than you realize.
Yeah. So the story, I started and I didn't finish. The story about this is last spring, and they re-invited me next spring, so I think I did good. There was the Rendez-vous numérique de Québec, Quebec City.
Mm-hmm.
It used to be Web à Québec, the WAC. And they changed the name and changed the organization. And they invited me to do like a closing day keynote. They told me, you have 1 hour free subject. We trust you, Sigui. Everyone in this industry calls me Sigui. So I didn't have a clue what to say.
That's a gift and a curse, right?
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much for your trust and complete lack of direction.
Yeah, and but also, I mean, it was 2025. I'm not going to talk about La Toile du Québec 30 years later, right?
No.
And plus, it was a good bet not to, because the audience was like 30 years old, 30, 35. But of course, they introduced me as the co-founder of La Toile du Québec and stuff like this. So when I got on stage, I saw the faces like, what's that, La Toile du Québec? So I just said, oh, by the way, La Toile du Québec in 1995 was like Taylor Swift today. And everybody understood. But
Gotta love a metaphor.
Yeah, but my subject matter was to talk about geeks and managing geeks. So I remember that my nickname was the Geek Whisperer in the 90s. Because of a story, we got hacked bad, and the sysadmin was an autistic guy, very low verbal, and very, if you don't ask a question in your intonation, you would not get an answer. You would have to say, Phil, do you know this? And you might get an answer. So Pia Hain, she was the director of those guys. She called me and said, Phil is having a bad time. We're being attacked. Can you come in the room? So I just came in the room, and everybody was screaming and shouting and asking questions. What the fuck is happening? And I said, everybody out. And I just sat in front of him, and I shut up. And after a minute, he started telling me, verbosing to me what he was doing. I patched the server at the 17:05. I logged off, blah, blah, blah. So a bunch of technical stuff. And at the very end, he said, I've been looking for them on the dark web for the last 12 minutes and I can't find them. Sorry, Sigui, I failed you. And I looked at him and said, no, you said all those things that you patched, that you fixed. What you mean is you succeeded into fixing the problems. And he said, huh? And I knew he liked Diet Coke. So I said, do you want a Diet Coke? He said, okay, very autistically. And we went to drink a Diet Coke. And when I got out of the room, Pia hugged me and said in my ear, you're my favorite geek whisperer. She knew I would do something like that probably, because I didn't know I was going to do that. And that stuck with me. She baptized me Sigui, and she baptized me Geek Whisperer. So fast forward 35 years, this is the title of my speech, and I talk about managing those geeks. And my ending was, well, if you're if you're a manager of a geek, you need to be a tank. It's an RPG metaphor. If Dungeons and Dragons, so you're a tank or you're a healer. You're not the star making the stuff. You're the manager. So you put yourself forward to get the hits, or you put yourself backwards to heal people. That's the only two roles a manager should have with geeks. They're the superstars. That was the gist of it. At the end of my hour presentation, the lights came up and I saw people like tearing up and like this. And even my partner who invited me was like this. And I looked at him and said, what the fuck happened? And he said, I think you just created a religion. And it was an hour and a half of questions of people like, and I said, okay, now these are my people. I need to speak to them. And I started writing on LinkedIn about that. And it's been a year now and it's been great.
So, wow.
Yeah. Yeah. There are a few very hurt people. Most of my people have been bullied in school. We were the nerds, so we were bullied. We were taken advantage of. We were like some of us roughed up. I was big and tall, so I had that opportunity of not being a target, but a lot of my friends were. And bullying for girls is meaner than for boys also because it's with words and sentiment. So I just decided to write about that, and the answer has been pretty good. And that actually that new podcast is about that.
You know, I love it. I love it. I always, in case of doubt, I always think betting on sincerity is a good way to go.
Yeah.
Because if you're going to go down fighting, but sincerity is that layer of, fighting with something or something you believe in or something you can feel, right? So, wow, well done.
Exactly.
Kind of wish I had seen that now,
Well, now you're kind of part of it, so
I do. Should I deduce that you're therefore like? Does that mean that you're putting me in the geek category or in the neurodivergence category? How did I even get an invite?
That's a good question. Okay, so
because I've never been formally diagnosed with anything except
diagnostics is irrelevant. It's a way. No, you're here because I know you're an atypical thinker. So and I know we can connect on a lot of stuff. Some of them we don't. I know you're a geek, but you're not here because you're a geek. That's you just make me realize that you're not here because I have a few invitees lined up that are uber geeks. Like the level of conversation will be elsewhere. But I like the way that, and maybe let's talk about this. To me, you have such a strong pattern recognition capacity. You see patterns everywhere. And I know that's not given to everyone, but you will be in a room, you will micro detect some patterns. And I know it could be also a hindrance because you see things very quickly and others don't. So let's talk about this. Like maybe that's why you're here. Maybe that's because I see in you someone who will detect the patterns. And I have a few friends like you. Let's say if I'm arrested in a foreign country, and I'm in prison, I know who to call. And if I want to know something about something, like when we talked about the media together and the terrorism of media, I knew you saw the patterns, and you would, like, even if you don't agree, we'll have an interesting conversation about this. So let's talk about this high-speed pattern recognition. That is a superpower, actually.
Is it?
Oh, it is. It is.
I mean, yeah. It feels like that. It feels like that's getting computed now. So, I mean, I used to have a useful skill of remembering things, and my friends would call and they'd be like, "Hey, what's this song?" And then we'd have that. We used to flip phone, right? So, yeah. and hey, what's this song? We do that. Then we'd brainstorm through it, or like, hey, do you remember this specific thing, or what about this random information? And I realize that hasn't happened in years because the technology that is now at our fingertips, right? Mm-hmm. Or at our vocal tips. And I realized I don't miss so much the being needed or being helpful, but I miss that what I'm seeing is an attrition or a reduction in the amount of, or in the frequency of interactions with the people I care about. So we're all connected by ourselves, right? So we've never been more connected, we've never been more alone. And
True.
whatever you know, when you say I have the pattern recognition, superpower, whatever, I'll trade it all for more time with my friends, if that makes
Of
any
course.
sense.
Yeah, no,
And
it does. Absolutely. Absolutely. But let me just try to answer your question about is this still relevant? I think yes, it is. But the fact that you can see those patterns uh, may, let's say that it makes you unique, kind of unique amongst your friends. So your friends now can ask ChatGPT the same question, or even just Google and find their answer. So they call you less, but you can still have that relationship with them because ChatGPT cannot make the story about that remembering, or that the way you know exactly how to speak with every one of your friends. I'm sure you don't speak to me but while telling the same story the same way you speak to another friend, because you know he or she would not understand it the same way. So the superpower is there, and the fact that the superpower is becoming more common with technology doesn't suppress it from you. It just makes it more available to others.
yeah, it's well put.
So that's how I see it. Like AI doesn't threaten me at all. I know how to write. So I'm not threatened at all by AI. But I also know that it will give some people more more ways to communicate.
Yeah, I think that part's that's there's good and bad on every part. I think that's a great part of AI. It's giving some people the tools they've never had. I think
Yeah.
iPhones. I think the whole book was better than the movie part of our existence is on its way out because
Oh yeah.
the gatekeeping and the access to the you know the resources necessary to make movies are now so much more easily accessed and developed and you know played with some of the most creative people. So I think that the book is not going to be you know better than the movie for very long, if it still is at all. um
Plus, I mean, for you mentioned in our pre-interview questionnaire that you don't have that capacity to sit in a 7 hours lecture about anything, which is probably
I
real
said seven
for
minutes
oh set. That's very good actually, because I was going there. Uh, 7 hours is just impossible. I actually quit college because of that. And YouTube is my friend. So, you know, if I want to learn something, I'm a visual thinker. So I much prefer the videos and the pictures and the words of the author. So you're right. Saying that the book is better, I think also it's a little bit like bougie to say, oh, the book is better because I read. Most people on this planet right now don't have the luxury of time to read a book. Let's not forget that. Most humans, most, are busy making a living, some of them very hard. So, yeah, the book is better, maybe, but the movie is okay.
the movies are
And
great.
and the shorts on YouTube is also okay for those 3 shorts that are the or the trailer is okay. So I tend not to judge. I used to when I was younger. I would judge people more. I tend not because I've made enough mistakes that I know, you know, this is bullshit. And knowing that you're a mistake prone individual makes you more probably careful when you do something. But yeah, those AI tools and creative tools, like you're a musician, I'm not, so I'm jealous of that. I used to think, oh, I should have learned music when I was younger. Now it's going to be like a very difficult. But with AI now, I compose music. Of course, I cannot say I play the guitar, I play the piano, I play the trumpet, but I can some sound and arrange it somehow. And you know what? It's good enough for what I want, which is getting it out of myself.
Yeah.
I'm not gonna publish anything. I'm not gonna sign a book deal or a record deal. I just want to make music sometimes. So instead of, like, you can pick a guitar and do a riff and it's fantastic, and I'll listen to it for hours or 7 minutes, but it's about attention span, right? So yeah, I think having a low attention span is I wouldn't say it's a superpower because it could be a hindrance, but it's a sign that your mind wanders to many many subject, and that I think it comes from the tree like thinking, branching out. I can touch probably like dozens of subject in a minute, but I do it very very fast. So the important thing is what I got out of it, that I know you do the same, so in 7 minutes or less.
Well, what's interesting to, I guess, bring it back to your question about, or your lens on pattern recognition is, and to link that also with like the 7 minutes, I can actually, I enjoyed the Lord of the Rings movie. Didn't read the book, but
Yeah.
I can enjoy that movie. I mean, it's a long ass movie. It's 3 long ass movies. Let's be super
Yeah.
clear here.
Yeah.
Um, and I'm still mad at that part where he drops the ball and it goes in that really poorly done slow motion. I'm like, with all the money you guys put in, this is the best slow motion you could put in this like 9 hour movie. Really? Like, I'm still kind of pissed about that. But
Probably a gazillion takes to get to that one, but yeah.
and I'm not judging, just saying.
Yeah.
Peter Jackson, if you're listening, I know you know. So but
Call me. Call
yeah,
me.
also, how you doing? Thank you so much for all your work. But like, I can do that. So I think it's more about just interest, and when something interests me, I think there's always a bit of a either an intrigue or a connection to it. So I'm not necessarily trying to notice patterns. I think that happens by itself, so I can't take any credit for it.
Yeah.
But then I just try to connect it to something that makes sense, or that is of interest. See, I don't think there's I don't think there's a few things I don't like how we look at them. Not because I think we should change as a society or this and that. I'm beyond the point of wishing that other people could change so I can feel better, with all due respect to HR. Um, I'm more in the sense of, if I have attention deficit disorder, if it is a disorder and it's a attention deficit, why am I able to sit down and play an instrument for hours? Why
Because you don't
is
have.
why is why is a kid able to play video games for a long time with quite a clear sense of focus and action
Mm,
and
mm.
sequentiality, and he's got learning disability. Well, he's got a shitload of energy, sure, but I think which child doesn't? And so it's not an attention deficit disorder. I've always considered to be an interest deficit, and it's not a disorder. It
Yes,
just means I
yes.
cannot force myself to be interested in this thing. I was interested in sciences very briefly, and that was directly linked to one of the crushes that was right next to me in class. I was like, I need to look smart so she can notice me because I'm not picking up anything. Well, we already covered that, So I'm like, so I need to impress her with how smart I am, and it was super awkward and delightful because that was actually the section on sexuality, which at like age 15 is kind of awkward. I was like, should I study a lot and show her I know a lot? Should I not study too much so I'm not a creep? And so many questions at 15, man. But I still
Yeah,
sympathize with everybody's going through all that. And the answer is just wing it. We're still winging it. But I was nevertheless very like interested, and for everything else in science, I was like, don't care. Cannot stare. They're like, the nucleus of them, like, still don't care. And the
mm,
second you start making wine, you're like, oh, so this is why it's called sulfur dioxide. And there's only 57% of it, which is actually, which can actually bind itself
yeah,
with the atom. So I'm like, all right, so, if anybody's listening and they're young and they're like, oh, I need to learn this, when you need it, you will find it now
yeah.
more than ever. And
The practicality of
yeah,
science.
And once
Yeah.
it's linked, I'm like, yeah, I can absolutely give you a pretty good idea. You're talking about the wine, it's just one example among others, but I was like, all right, well, I know how many parts per million I need of free sulfur dioxide in order, based on the pH, to be able to guarantee, a few things. So I'm like, all right, great. There's some math, there is some science, there is, the chemistry. I'm there with my little lab stuff, and I get to drink while I'm doing it, and it's a lot of fun, which is, I guess, my main goal at this point. I was like, hey, can we make this fun? Which comes back, I guess, to what I was saying at the beginning, the corporate comms. I was like, all right, well, let's make it fun. What would I be able to sit through as a training, as a manual? How would I do this? And I think YouTube is now showing us that the model is absolutely viable if you can make it interesting and hopefully get somebody to pay for it. I'm like, go for it,
Yeah, yeah, exactly,
That's
exactly. And so, yeah, the patterns and the interest. It's interesting what you say about ADHD. Uh, I've done a lot of research in psychology, behavioral psychology, and theoretical psychology. This is an English word I can't never say. Um, um, about ADHD. So most of the gifted people I know have traits of ADHD, but I read a study that it's not ADHD, it's something else. And that is why the meds for ADHD either don't work at all for those individuals, or, like in my case, can you make you very sick? I've been very sick, being diagnosed at like 40 years old with ADHD. And my physician was against that medication. His hunch was, this is going to hinder your creativity and your spontaneity and stuff like this. But the psychiatrist was very adamant, and he says, this man has difficulty at work, let's help him out. It was a bad
also a fair
idea.
argument. I mean, I
Also a
think
fair argument. I mean, it's when you don't know, you don't. Um, but what happened is, since I have the traits of ADHD, but not the condition, the meds for ADHD are stimulants. They're made to make your brain go faster, which sounds counterintuitive because a true ADHD with hyperactivity will go everywhere. But that's because their brain tends to be, I'm not technical, but a little bit slower. So they excite themselves with all those things. The meds compensate that. But when you go from flower to flower like a bee, because your mind goes like this, and you don't have ADHD and you take that stimulant, well, Merry Christmas. It's not going to be fun.
wow.
So I actually, my brain decided to, you know what, I'm going to shut off. And I went into a deep depression state for a year and a half. So that I'm not making any recommendation for meds. I mean, you're a specialist for this,
Fair
but
enough.
um,
This is not medical advice for any
no,
situation. You should consult your physician and the person who wrote
exactly.
the letter. These are simply two dudes talking. There we
Talking
go.
about their own
We're good.
experiences.
Are we
Yeah,
good? We're good.
thank you for the FM voice too. But yeah, I mean, ADHD is something. Well, probably if you go on LinkedIn, everybody has ADHD now. And it's not because you can't stay in place or you can't focus that you have ADHD, because most ADD people I know can focus on stuff they really, really like.
I was gonna say, so just
Yeah,
if you can, if you're lucky, just find a way to get paid to do that.
yeah,
It's just
yeah, exactly. Like there's a new, I don't know if it's new, but there's a trend new to me, that don't follow your passion. Like saying to someone, follow your passion is like probably bad advice, but follow
it's
something you're
horrible
good at.
advice.
Yeah. Follow something you're good at. Find something you're good at, develop this, and try to make money with this.
Yeah, the Scott Galloway
Oh
school of
yeah,
thought. I
exactly.
love
That
Scott, and
was
he's like, yeah,
yeah,
this horrible advice. Follow your passion. You're hearing that from somebody who doesn't need the money anymore, and like they made all their made all
yeah,
their. Look at how Elon Musk made his money.
yeah.
First of all, rags to
Grinding.
riches. He is not. His
Yeah,
family sold diamonds.
yeah,
So fair start. And like he was finding PayPal, and they're just finding ways to, like, transfer and siphon money digitally speaking. That's not a passion project. I
No.
think he is passionate about sending us to Mars.
Yes.
But I don't think he was passionate about moving money around. I think he was just better at it, staring with that gaze and just getting that stuff done. Find something you're good at. Find something that you do easily that
Yeah.
other people have a hard time doing, and ideally find a way to leverage that into earning a living. The passion comes from getting good at something, not, oh, who's passionate about something they don't like or they're not interested in? Nobody.
Yeah.
But it's horrible
Exactly.
advice. Don't follow your passion.
No.
Not in this, because also look at Ed Sheeran. He paints to satisfy his artistic desire. He doesn't make music to satisfy it, which is odd because he is a musician and he came through it. But when the passion becomes work, it ceases to be a passion, and then you
Yeah.
need another outlet, and then there's that sense of obligation. You dread doing that thing. I mean, I read that in, I think, Ali Abdaal's book, and then I saw that example of Ed Sheeran, and I know that I believe you're a fan, or at least I'm pretty sure you've been to a concert. So, but yeah, he paints now in
Yeah.
the evenings, kind of thing, to sort of still meet and connect with that artistic part of himself, because the passion project became a pay project. Therefore, it is now no longer the passion project.
Exactly. Plus, it speaks to uh, the ability, not positive ability, of people to pigeonhole people into one thing. Oh, Ed Sheeran is a musician. He's so much more than that. He's a son. I don't know if he's a father or not, but he's a
I mean,
person.
he's pretty popular. I'd be surprised if he isn't.
Yeah, exactly. He's a redhead. So he's many things, many things, but he plays music. That's one of his
Yeah.
talents.
That's one of the things
Um,
that, yeah, for sure.
we know a few pigeonholed people like super athletes or stuff, but they're probably good at something else. I When I was a pole vaulter, I was in team track and field teams. I was a pole vaulter. All my friends were in the throwing categories: shot putter, discus thrower, hammer throw, javelin throw. Uh, because I felt better with those guys, because most vaulters are just like prima donnas.
Really?
So, oh yeah,
Like, just to be clear, just so I'm clear, and and I'm going to expose my possible lack of knowledge here, but is pole vaulter the one where you have that really long, super
yeah,
flexible stick, and that we're always wondering,
yeah,
is that guy going to impale himself on the other side? It is.
exactly.
It's impressive, because I'm like, I feel like that's like, until they put alligators in the Summer Olympics, I feel like that is one of the most like
Yeah,
high sport.
that hurdles and the steeplechase. Yeah, um, yeah, you're right, and it's not that flexible. It is flexible because those guys are super strong. It's because if it were that flexible, it wouldn't bend and not unbend, right?
And not propel the person over
Yeah,
the bar. That is nuts, man. It is
but
so impressive.
oh yeah, and the new kid who does all the makes all the records now, he's something else. But I
Your
was more
ability
friends.
to closely monitor the most obscure of sports and competitive events is always has always delighted me to no end. By the way, I'm like, every time I see something, I'm like, look at this kid who's just what's that sport with the horrible name there? Cornhole. Just, I can't say it seriously. I just, like, I see somewhere in my feed, I'm like, look at this kid, like, just trash talking all those grown-ups on the cornholing thing. I'm sending this to Chris, and you're like, yeah, I know, I signed up
I
for it.
know
I'm like,
it.
Jesus Christ, like,
Yeah, exactly. But my point was, my brother was a hammer thrower, discus thrower, shot putter, and hammer thrower, and we were the same age as Bruni Surin, Canadian champion, world champion, not world record owner, maybe for the 4x10, 4x100. Anyway, very good athlete. But in training, we had the same coach, and on the starting blocks. So the start of a race, my brother, who was a shot putter, discus thrower, and hammer thrower, so you can imagine the build on that man. It's different than a runner, right? But on the first 20 meters, he would kill Bruni Surin. like not even close. And the coach, knowing that my brother was very strong at starting, because it's squat. What is a start? It's squatting out of the blocks. And a shot putter and a discus thrower do a lot of squats at the gym.
The legs on those guys.
The legs, exactly.
The legs on those guys.
The legs, each leg is your torso, right? And so he would tease Bruni. So a shot putter is beating you? But after 20 meters, Bruni would stand up and be running and not just pushing. And then my brother was dead because now the runner was running, but at the starting block. So when you train for a sport like the 100-meter dash, it's not just run fast. It's how to position yourself, push out of the blocks, push while you are at an angle to try to get up as fast as possible to be able to do your thing, which is run very fast and run very fast for a short amount of time. So it's very, very technical, but pole vaulting is probably more technical because it involves vaulting very high with a stick. But yeah, it's the number of things to know for a simple sport like running fast is incredible. So imagine astrophysicists now. It's something else, right?
You know, one of the things I've always really appreciated from just sports in general is, as far as I can understand it, like professionals, is somebody I heard somebody explain it once, and a coach, and he said, the difference between most elite and just the regular person is not the special skills and the special gifts. It's that they do the basics.
Yeah.
So
very well,
precisely, so on command, and so much faster. Like the only thing they do faster and better than everybody else is the basics. And I'm like, so why do I always try to complicate things? I was like,
I have a great story. I used to be a portrait photographer for fun, but I got pretty good, and I had the chance to photograph mostly women, young and old, in 3 categories: models, dancers, and comedians. Comedians was for their portfolio. They needed pictures for their portfolio, right? Dancers also for their portfolio, but also for the art of capturing movement in a still. And the models because that's their job, right? And I noticed something. When I shot models, I almost didn't have to talk because they knew the mechanics. They knew exactly what I was doing behind the camera. They knew the mechanics, so they would strike a pause like Madonna. You strike a pause, change, and they know their good side. They know everything about their face.
They're managing the light.
Exactly. They're professional models. So my job was easy, but also kind of boring because of that. I still liked it, but it's different. Then you have your comedians. Comedians, you say, be sad, and there's a tear there, right there. Or be angry, and it's angry. I asked, her name is Kim. She will recognize herself if she watches this. And I said, shout at me. I wanted to take a picture of a woman shouting at the camera. And I remember it took like a few takes because I was startled. I knew she was going to do that, but I felt like, oh my God, she's shouting at me for real. I felt it. She's a comedian. She can impress an emotion onto you. That's what she does. So smile and everything. She's very good. The dancers impressed me the most. You tell a dancer, put your hands straight up. And my camera is always level, right? So in post-editing, I would never have to recrop the picture. The shoulders, the elbows, and the wrists and the fingers are on one line.
Wow.
They do a vertical split. Of course, the toes are pointed and the arc of the foot is in line with the knee, with the hip, with the other leg. It's one line. They don't think, they just do it because their whole training is, walk straight with a wire, and they're always straight. Their movement is so precise. You say jump, they jump. You just time yourself to be there, and they're always at this. You take, like, I think I burst shot when I do this. So I would have like 30 bursts of almost the same picture. She's in the air jumping, and the 30 bursts are almost the same picture every time because consistency. It's phenomenal. But these are 3 levels of expertise in one domain that, of course, the dancer can make emotions, and a model also, but they're experts differently.
Can you do it on command?
Yeah.
Under
to cry
pressure.
on command. Yeah. And comedians have that gift. We can think of, especially the Hollywood superstars. Of course, they're also brand names, but they're also very talented. It's difficult.
Yeah, I think, and I sort of wonder, when you start becoming hired for who you are as an actor, right? Do you miss the whole part of acting, or are you just like, oh, this is great? I'm thinking like George Clooney, like Bill Burr, Amy Schumer, whatever. Yeah. And I mean that just really in the actual, acting sense. But like when people hired Bill Burr, they're like, they don't have to brief him very much. They're like, yeah, we obviously wanted your exact thing. Right, you hire, and I think you get this a lot with people who are in the comedy and then who move into acting. Like, why are you going to hire Adam Sandler? Because you want that Adam Sandler thing, right? That unassuming sort of schmuck, sort of a kind of thing, and then he loses his shit. Okay, great, yeah, do that. We're going to make money, And when you get hired to do that, but even George Clooney, right? If you're hiring George Clooney, I know exactly what the character is like. He's like George Clooney. I wonder if they miss it. I wonder if they miss having to transform themselves or give themselves to an imaginary set of circumstance.
And it's their job. It's their talent. I don't think they approach acting the way we think they do, because we see the end result. I was dumbfounded to learn that most actors don't watch the movies they play in.
Yeah.
I can get this. I hate seeing myself on camera and hearing myself, but
I am never watching this.
Yeah.
I am trusting the process on this. I am the person I dislike the most to watch.
Yeah.
I can't understand why others enjoy it, but thank you.
Yes. So, and I decided to do that. So I will have to watch it to edit it. But I hear you. So it's their job. It's their talent. And they probably, like Ed Sheeran, have other outlets to express themselves, like painting or dancing or
Nespresso.
Kate Winslet is the world record holder for diving without gear, apnea diving or something.
Oh, like deep diving.
Deep diving, but I think she set a world record of like 6 or 8 minutes. I'll have to Google this, but Kate Winslet, this is what she does to relax.
Good for her. Good for her. Yeah. I'm volunteering for just to be first aid, just in case something happens. She needs to be, she needs to be protected. Kate Winslet, that's awesome. I've had a mild crush on her since the Titanic, and it's not, I found no reason to stop over the years. I'm just like, wow, she's fantastic.
Who hasn't? Let's go back to wordsmithing and PR and the I don't like to call it the science, but it's the science of writing convincing or convicting copies.
Yeah, it is fun when it works, though, isn't it?
Yes.
I mean, like, I imagine professional musicians get this, like, when this guy's going to be a hit.
Oh, yeah.
Everyone says, oh, you never know. And sometimes accidents happen and it's hilarious and sad when it does. But generally speaking, I'm like, oh yeah, of these 12 things, I'm like, yeah, I think that's going to be the one that, like, because you're like, I can't believe I wrote that. Like it just came out. You're like, yep, this makes sense, right? And you can just reuse those things forever. I I have, and you say, I prefer to work in short bursts. I don't know what to say about that. I haven't. I feel like I still haven't found a great way to work. I just kind of survive things and accidentally come up with things that work and that make sense. The process to doing so is, I guess, kind of like going bankrupt gradually and then suddenly, and involves fair amount of research, of messing around, and then of self-loathing, and then of quickly realizing that if I don't something in a record amount of time, and then I do it, so a lot happens between minute 59 and minute 61, including me saying I'm going to be a minute late. So yeah, so to say that I prefer to work in short bursts, I think is not doing justice to the amount of disorganization that goes into it.
Yeah, probably. But at the same time, uh, what looks like being disorganized, is probably a different way of thinking in others than ours. I can look very disorganized. My office, my desk is also a mess. Uh, but I'm organized this way. I know where things are. If you move one book from my piles of books, I'll look for it because I know about, it's about there. If it's not there, then I don't know where it is. It's somewhere in the house. Somewhere in the house is too big of a of a subset.
It's yeah, fair enough, fair enough. But
Yeah,
when it comes then to finding or to convey, it's more conveying an idea. I think I spend a lot of time in the aimless wandering phase of it, and
yeah,
and I don't mean that in a sense that it is, deliberately neglectful. I mean aimlessly wandering about, and anybody who's traveled should be able to relate. Like you just walk around in a city, where are you going? Nowhere. I'm just wandering about aimlessly. And it's been my experience that the people who do that, or those who've had the chance to do that, can probably tell the best story where I can imagine a city in my mind.
yeah.
And
You're
there's,
also more you're also more open to possibilities when you do that.
yeah, exactly. I think the best agenda sometimes is no agenda. And just so it's hard to sort of put into a process. Like, where are you? I'm like, I'm just trying to feel it. What does that mean? I'm like, I'm wandering aimlessly. So that goes to say that any project managers will have remembered working with me as being a very, frustrating experience, except for the very few who absolutely got it. Then they were like, yeah, we know Bernard's going to show up at like minute 59. Once
Yeah,
they know me, they're like, yeah, it's going to work out. But if we don't know each other, it tends to be, I think, a very irritating process on both sides. To be fair, I'm like, stop busting my balls. I haven't figured it out
yeah.
yet. Well, then when do you think you're going to figure it out? I'm like, I don't know, before the game.
I had a I would I'm the type of guy who would finish the PowerPoint deck in the car going to the client, right?
Yeah.
And I know you are too. I had a boss at DAC. Hi Mario, if you watch this now, you'll know my secret. Every time we had a pitch coming, we were like, let's say a month out. The week after the meeting is booked, I knew he was expecting my deck, so I would send him a deck, very clean deck, very with everything corporate ticked off and stuff. And he would be happy and not bother me for the next 3 weeks. And he would see me scramble in his car, like, "What are you doing?" "Well, I'm making the presentations." I said, "What?" "Yeah, I'm making it now because I spoke to the client. I notice it's raining. People are going to be wet and sad. So I'm changing the joke, or I'm removing the joke, or whatever." And then I get into the room and I'm greeted by everyone, and we shake hands and we talk. We go to the coffee machine, go to the water
Yeah.
machine. And then I would go to my computer and change something. He said, "You're still editing?" "Yeah, because I'm still working." And I would get on stage or in the boardroom and I would skip some slides or I would do back and forth because I'm reading the room. I'm a professional presenter, so I'm reading the room. But to them, it's very
It's
difficult. So maybe now he knows that he got fake decks all the time.
I think I met Mario, and he's a pretty chill guy. He's also an
Oh yeah,
extremely
yeah, yeah.
smart guy, and I don't mean to break
Yes.
it to you. I think he's known for quite some time. I think he just never
Probably.
stopped being nervous about it.
Yeah. So probably he probably said, "Okay, we have plan B is done. We have a
Yeah,
deck. So if Chris dies, I can go present because I have his deck." So yeah, that's probably what he thought. Another colleague, Ken, did the same, and there was one point we were working on a deck, the three of us, and I remember Ken coming back in the boardroom, and he would look at Mario putting things together, and he would just say, "This is not working for me," and he left for the night without notice. And we saw him 5 minutes prior to the presentation the next morning. He brought his
perfect.
own deck. He brought his own deck. That was epic.
Hey, do whatever it takes, right? To quote the great philosophers, Imagine
Yep.
Dragons, just whatever it takes.
Whatever it
It's
takes, exactly.
it's one thing that's funny, is our ability to sort of put ourselves or imagine how other people do. And I have no talent at this whatsoever. I cannot imagine how another person thinks. And it's only, as we grow, I think, with experience, that you at least realize that, hey, other people might compute differently.
Yeah.
And every now and then, I've often worked with creative teams, with corporate teams, with executive teams, and for various reasons, I've heard the same sentence every now and then. Somebody who, when they see it, when they see the madness work, they're like, "Man, I'd love to have an idea of what it's like being in your head." And I've always told them, I'm
You
like,
don't want to go there.
I was like, "It's noisier than you think."
Yeah.
Said you'd love to, and I think, but I've always been fascinated by that. I think what they want is I'd like a glimpse of the antenna,
Yeah.
and I've always told them, I'm like, a glimpse sounds great. I can't turn this fucker off.
Yeah, exactly.
And
I think twice in my life, and my wife was with me, I would stop and looked at her and said, "Honey, for second and a half, I thought of nothing." And she would smile and say, "That's cool, right?" I said, "Oh, yeah, that's
oh,
cool." For a second and a half, I was
that's
empty.
ah gold. That's why
Yeah.
that's why I still to this day play music. That's why I ride my bike the way I do.
Yeah.
By the way,
Yeah.
I can't do the focus on nothing. I can't focus on
No.
zero, but I can
Yeah.
focus on one.
Yeah.
Which is why I ride my bike. And those little intrusive thoughts, either the weird entertaining ones of like, "Hey, I wonder what happens," or just even just, if that happens, ride faster.
Yeah.
Like, tell your
Yeah. Yeah.
bodies like, "Hey, back me up, let's go." And that just
Yeah.
works.
What,
Or playing an instrument, you just get lost. Like my girlfriend, this angel of a woman who for some reason that, still escapes me, still thinks I'm cool. Um, she was like, "I love who you are when you play when
yeah.
you play music." She's like, "You just disappear." She's like, you simultaneously appear and disappear." And I was like, "Yeah, yeah,
Mm.
just kind of go there."
Yeah.
I lose complete notion of time when I ride my bike, when I'm playing music, different things, but like, it is as close as I can get to that, which is why I gave up trying to meditate. It is
My
just so
my
irritating.
my wife told me something similar about she saw me play chess. And I wasn't playing chess with one of our daughters. I was playing chess with a friend, so it was a little bit more competitive, let's say, because I knew his level. Um, and um, and she said after, "Oh my God, you're so alpha when you play chess." Like, and chess is a combat sport. I mean, it's a metaphor of war. Um, and we humans invented that game because war is a big part of our history and our DNA. Any animal will tell you that. Um, and she realized that my presence was solely on the board. Like sometimes I would look at into my opponent's face, and it's not really for insight. It's just because I'm thinking of something else. And she saw me disappear and reappear too. I don't think she liked it. She was more intrigued by that trait of my personality. But it's true. When I play chess, I don't play chess competitively anymore. It's been 30 years since I played competitively. But when I play seriously, so like fake competition, I can be deep into and when I watch like high level players, I know exactly what's happening in their heads. It's not fun, by the way, because what is chess besides fixing your mistakes?
You know what it is? It's just channeled enthusiasm and anxiety in like the same on the same sort of at the same time, I think, in its own way.
Yeah,
It's just like
yeah,
oh, what if this and what if that? So it's a whole bunch of if, but also if. So it's just this weird balance. I've never been good at
and
it, but I've
it's also it's an intellect game. So if you're not, you mentioned hockey earlier. I was not even an okay hockey player when I was young. I was just like playing hockey because I knew how to skate and shoot a puck, right? Uh, so that's why probably I like seeing professionals who are very very good at it. I especially like the contests, like shootout contests and stuff like, because you
the
see
skills.
the skills and the talent and the styles too. Um, but when you're not a professional, you're trying to emulate those guys, but you don't understand the game the same way they do. They see, we talked about pattern recognition. You can ask any top 10 grandmasters and you show them a position and they will tell you the game, the name of the players, the year, and the city that game was played. And it could be like Fischer, Spassky, Reykjavik, 1972. That was the 7th game of the World Championship. They know that position comes from that game. So the pattern recognition in these guys is very, very high. Chess is about pattern recognition.
Yeah, I've always thought there was a reason why so many of them just delve into madness at some point. To
Oh, see,
whatever
oh yeah,
to
yeah, yeah,
whatever
yeah,
extent, and like I don't wonder
yeah.
why. I mean,
Uh,
it kind of hits you when you see enough people, right? You're just like, oh yeah, like there's
Bobby Fischer is the epitome of this. He won the world championship, didn't come back to defend, and like defected the world basically,
yeah, he just kind of checked out.
and came back crazy, batshit crazy when he came back. So yeah, it's hard, and it's probably because most people who enter that field are not sane to begin with.
Well, I was going to say it's like cause and effect, right? It's like people say, "Oh,
Yeah.
I'd love to do this sport." I spoke with a trainer once. He was really cool, but he was because I've been looking for a trainer because I have no technique in most things. I'm just winging
Mm-hmm.
it, right?
Yeah, yeah.
So I'm like, I'd love to have a bit of technique, but this guy was on Australia. Like I found him on TikTok, and I was like, "Oh, cool, let's go, dude." And he was like, "Oi," but and it was super cool. Except the timeline didn't work, but he said, "Look, you have to work with what you got." He's like, and the build you have is many people would very much like to have that exact build, but what you're asking me is not available to you. He's like, look at me, and he just turns around. He's like this is well. I mean, he does it with his accent, you know, and he's like, so he's doing it in his own way. He's like, you think I like doing this? And then, but he's like, look, I didn't become this way because I play rugby. I play rugby because I am this shape.
Yeah.
See, a swimmer doesn't develop a big back because they swim. They become good swimmers because they have the
Yeah.
physiology for it. And he's like what what you're saying, you can get that performance or whatever on the bike, but he's like the way you're built, you're always gonna lean more. As soon as you work a little bit, you're gonna have more of that sort of more of that sort. And he said it in a really nice way because he was good at what he's done. But he was like, he really nailed it too. He's like, you're always going to have more of a Thor physique then you're going to have a Tony Stark physique.
Yeah,
And he's like, because of the way you are, if you just work a little bit, and somebody has a Tony Stark physique, and they can be F1 pilots, and they can be great cyclists, and they can that.
exactly.
You can be good at those sports, but you will never have a physique of somebody who excels at that sport. And it sounded so much cooler with the Australian accent and whatnot.
Yes.
But the amount of clarity that came from that, and I've been noticing it ever since. I'm like, oh, you're not that way because you did this. You did this because, like, more the link, the cause and effect. And
so yeah, the physicality is important. Like, I wanted to be a high jumper. I'm not tall enough. I'm only 6'2". So I was 6'2" at 14, but at 15, 16, I was still 6'2". So my coaches told me it's not gonna happen because you should be 6'6" by now or 6'8". And they kind of said, well, you should try pole vaulting because you're on the reverse and it could work. And I said, I was 14, so I said, why not? And I liked it. When I was golfing a lot, I had a coach. I had many coaches, but this coach was pretty good. I was struggling with not a hook, but like a strong draw. Okay. And I was trying to fix it. And he saw me struggling and he just looked at me and said, try this new technique. And he said, put your hand not like this, but like do a gun like this with your right hand. Did it, cured my draw.
Nice.
So I looked at him and said, where does that stem from? He said, I don't know. I just made that shit up. And I said, what? He said, yeah, you're too much into your head. I got you out of your head. This is my coaching. Get out of your head, do something else. And it worked. Still to the day, I do the trick.
You know what? As the sunlight's turning in my window and is about to blind me, I can't think of a better way to land this plane, to bring this home.
Yes.
Get out of your head.
Yes, get out of your head. Exactly. I think it's the best counsel we can give younger people who maybe have not realized their full potential and their unicity, let's say, or them being atypical. And if we can help them by having this conversation, then I think it's a great way to end this. Thank you very much, Bernard. That was fantastic.
Yeah, this was fun. Let's do it again.
Yes, of course. Let's do part 2, 3, and 4 every season. Thank you. We'll speak soon, my friend.
Thanks, man.
All right.